We should be most well informed when the final decision is made, and I believe this session tomorrow may lend itself to that. And then, as in the past, that all Dallasites will come together and abide by the law in a spirit of goodwill, as it always has in the past.
Does this mean that you will or will not?
Will or will not?
Become involved in the suit?
That will depend on the decision of the City Council at tomorrow's meeting. There is some difference, as there was previously on the council, between council members on that, and to what degree.
Will you rescind your resolution asking the city attorney to look into the matter?
Yes, the city attorney will speak to that, but that was his recommendation, yes.
So the City Council is taking no action as such until after the meeting tomorrow?
Well, at the meeting tomorrow is where any action that it wishes to take will be taken.
Of course, the council can take whatever action they desire to take. There are positions the council can take if they want to.
During the public hearing tomorrow, have any effect on the city's position?
This I don't know.
And the city's legal position?
A matter for the city council to decide.
How about the legal position?
It'll have no effect on my position and my advice to the council. Now, what position the council may take, I can't anticipate.
The car came through, placed a package by the drive-out window chute, told the girl that she had 27 seconds to put the money in a brown paper bag. If not, the bomb would go off. She gave a certain amount of money to this individual.
Do you have any idea yet how much?
No, sir, we do not. We're being audited at this time. We didn't have a chance to audit because he left a package, supposedly a bomb, outside of the drive-in.
The insurance companies parked this wreck just outside the door where the insurance board was holding its hearing today as a graphic example of why they say they need an almost 10% increase in automobile insurance rates. It was a typical hearing with reams of papers containing percentages, ratios, and other numbers, but Senator Mike McKool of Dallas knifed right through those complications to narrow it down to the lowest common denominator in appealing for the rate increase to not be granted.
Like people in the lower and middle income brackets. They can't even afford the present rates, Mr. Chairman, much less any higher rates.
Senator McKool also said that the insurance board should not set rates for the companies. It should be left open to free competition. However, that's a matter for the legislature to deal with, not the insurance board. The increase of 9.8% requested by the companies compares with 2.8% increase in rates recommended by the staff of the insurance board. The company spokesman, David Irons, pointed out that the staff is allowing the companies a profit on premiums of 2.6%. He said that this should be almost twice as much.
This bill will go a long way towards restoring the House of Representatives, the control of the House of Representatives, to the people of Texas and to their elected representatives. For the past two sessions of the Texas Legislature, Speaker Mutcher and Chairman Heatley have used the Appropriations Conference Committee as a vehicle to perpetuate themselves in office. They have had and exercised more control over the spending of Texas taxpayers' money than the rest of the members of the House of Representatives combined. They use this vehicle to obtain and hold votes for Speaker and to punish those who have the nerve to oppose them. Through the use of this absolute power, they obligate members of the legislature, state agencies, and special interests in order to continue their single-handed domination of the House.
Only through facing up realistically to this specific issue can the board adopt rates which will give this industry reasonable prospects of a rate of return commensurate with the risks undertaken, with the capital invested in this essential business in which the companies are engaged.
After getting two whopping raises in 2 years, let's let the industry, let the people have a rest for a change. And I'd like to see this board stand up and say to them, no, we won't give you a raise this year. We've given you two big ones already. Let's try to cut a little, let's have a little efficiency. Let's try to do it some other way than just coming back and asking for another raise. If you give another raise, this will only mean that there will be more and more of our citizens who will be driving without insurance.
Taking an official position might possibly have some bearing on the lawsuit itself, and for this reason why I'm sure the council will be very cautious and very careful in the way they take positions and what they do.
They have spoken of a petition to remind the court of the city's corporate interest in the case. Do you consider that intervention?
Well, I don't think that is not what I refer to as active intervention, no.
Do you believe that there will be a petition to that end, to the court?
This I don't know.
What led you to believe that we had no legal leg to stand on?
Because I read the cases very carefully and saw the bases upon which the court made their decision. And it did not refer to the things that are the jurisdiction of the city, but rather those that are the jurisdiction of the school board.
to open the call to the 1972 special session for a law that I proposed in a news.
So I don't anticipate that the move will be made immediately. I think the move is premature, no matter whether you're talking about Washington, San Diego, or Cleveland. Number one, the rule precludes moving at this time. You're supposed to have a October 31st deadline if you want to move next season. And number two is you got fans in Washington, thousands of dollars involved, box seat holders. You got the same thing involved out here. So, and indemnification to pay the Texas League for territorial rights. And I think it's just too many obstacles to try and move at this particular time. And nobody wants it any more than I do.
Well, what would happen if, for example, move talks were started after the season, before October 31st?
Well, I think the talks are fine. There was a lot of talk in Milwaukee when we moved to Atlanta. In fact, the ball players had scurvy or something that last season up there because nobody wanted to associate with them because they knew they're moving. Well, if Short today announces we're moving out of Washington into Dallas-Fort Worth, the name is mud in Washington. And that's also untimely.
Do you think that particular team would move down here next year? Do you think by next year we'll have a Major League team?
Well, Bob Short was quoted today as saying, I never have wanted to move. I don't want to move, but I'll move. He's financially strapped, and he can see what the area here will do because the Cowboys prove what kind of an area it is.
Something I've always wanted to do, and I think the time right now is right to do this. I've got some good people behind me. I've got Doug to manage me, and I've got my education at SMU guaranteed. And if I make good, good. If I don't, I'm gonna go to school.
Are you gonna have to change your style any to fight professionally?
I'm gonna have to quit getting hit so much. I'm not gonna change my style of fighting per se, but I'm gonna try to defense a little bit better.
What are you doing different to train for your July the 6th fight?
Well, I'm trying to think a little bit more. Before, I'd go into a ring when I was an amateur, you know, and just go in and slug it out. But now with these people up here, you know, they're not amateurs anymore. And kind of watch what you're doing and don't get too wild. And if you see an opening, take it. If you don't, lay back and don't make a foolish mistake.
We've been assured by the Amtrak headquarters in Washington that they are going to include Dallas, and they want to include Dallas, and they have a few problems that they see, and they've asked us to cooperate with them, and our joint city-county committee met and vowed to cooperate with the Amtrak people in order to get a delegation or a representatives from our body to meet with the people in Washington.
What's the deadline situation?
No deadline. They're still putting their staff together. They're one of their men who will be very important in implementing the program will not get on board until next week, and so they've asked us to meet with them the last part of July to talk about the problems and try to arrive at solutions from the local standpoint.
Then is that July meeting the next step in our campaign?
I would think so.
I think genuine progress has been made in talking with Channel 8. I would expect to see, as soon as it's possible, minority group people employed in significant positions. I think it would be tremendously important that in programming in the next few months or years that we shall see a change in terms of orientation that begins to reflect the contributions, the positive contributions, the glorious and the inglorious kinds of experiences that minority group people have had.
Well, I see a better understanding between all of our people. I see opportunity for people to really work together as they understand really our various types of lifestyles and understand that we have hopes and aspirations that are basically the same.
Why is WFAA radio and television engaging in negotiations with citizens groups and the signing of agreements concerning such things as minority employment?
Well, Travis, I suspect we have to go back about a year or so when the Federal Communications Commission changed the entire procedure of the license process and made it mandatory on any licensee that he be attuned to his community, that he survey that community and all elements of it, and he must respond to the problems of the community, he must respond to all elements of it. And all stations have gone through this. The Texas stations, all of the stations, radio and television, are up for license renewal at this time. So it has been happening across the country in the past year that as stations come up for license renewal, and they go through the process of survey research, that groups such as the group we've been talking with now for quite a few months, they're representative of a minimum of 14 organizations here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have found that through our research that we probably haven't been talking to the right people out of sheer ignorance. And I think the whole thing is good for the media. I think it's good for the community and the minority groups because we will be more attuned to it. Now, I think one of the things, and I was a little surprised they didn't mention it, is that the minorities do not identify with the people they see on camera. We have a process of education for ourselves, which is part of our agreement, that we will be more attuned to these problems. We would call our
Although there are no doors as yet, there shortly will be, so that he will use this to open it to move in the hordes of tenants. Henry, to you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Henry. This is going to be a real challenge to us. I hope your other trades can work as fast as
It's hard to shake the public out of its apathy. When there are public hearings affecting the community, most people don't even bother to go. When there's a cleanup drive, the great silent majority watches the operation with an appreciative nod. But if you change the garbage ordinances, you're met with a storm of protest ranging from letters to the editor all the way up to recall petitions to kick councilmen out of office. Today is the last day for sanctioned use of the venerable old garbage can with its dents and its noise and its nasty odor. From now on, Fort Worth residents are supposed to use nice, shiny, odor-free plastic bags. That's all. Nothing else changes. If you now have your garbage picked up in the alley, it'll still be picked up there. If you're required to put it by the curb, that's where you'll place your neatly tied bags. But no, you cry. What about spillage? Well, what about animals clawing the bags to shreds? What about scatter all over your lawn? Well, City Public Works Director Jack Graham says, no sweat.
Well, as you know, Jay, we've been on a voluntary bag basis for the past 18 months. And the spillage has actually been reduced over what it was when people were using garbage cans, oftentimes without lids, and generally exposed to the outside at all times where they were subject to being turned over by stray animals.
Jack Graham says that a study in New York City shows that things stay neater and cleaner when plastic bags are used. Of course, New York publishing a garbage report is like Jack the Ripper writing a book on morality. You tend to distrust the conclusions. At any rate, Fort Worth is ordering garbage bags at the rate of $20 million a year. They'll be on sale at fire stations and at City Hall. So after today, the noble garbage can clanks away into the sunset.